Okay, so shortly after the election and Donald Trump's victory, Elon Musk tweeted out the following here with the Captain Phillips meme. Look at me, we are the mainstream media. Now, Elon tweets out, you, meaning you, the ex-users, are the media now. And this did not sit well with Axios' Jim Vandehei. He made an appearance at some press event. I forget exactly what it was, but we will find out shortly because we have the video. Not only did he go on a rant against Elon and alternative media at this event, but Morning Joe brought him on to congratulate him and congratulate themselves on the importance of what they do. So
it's what they're best at.
That's what they're best at. So here's this segment here.
He's here, right? Yeah.
He's there.
Last week, you were awarded the 2024 Fourth Estate Award by the National Press Club, along with Axios' the great Mike Allen.
National
So congratulations.
That's nice.
The award recognizes journalists who have made significant contributions to the industry, and you have. Specifically, you and Mikey were awarded for your work that has revolutionized how audiences consume news. And we have some of the remarks you made during your acceptance speech. Let's listen.
I hate this damn debate about, like, oh, we don't need the media. Like, it is not true. Think about what makes this. I love this country. I'm a beneficiary of this country. Like some from Wisconsin who can come and start two companies, be up here, win an award, sit next to Mikey. I'm a beneficiary of it. But there's something about the country. There's something about it, right? There's something about freedom, capitalism, the animal spirits of democracy. But at the core of that is maybe transparency, maybe a free press, maybe the ability to do your job without worrying to go to jail, maybe the ability to sit in a war zone and tell people what's actually happening so they're not just looking at distortion matters. It matters profoundly. It's why it's not like we just love getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning doing this every single day. Like, we do it because we love it. We do it because it matters. The work that we do matters. Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying, like, we are the media. You are the media. My message to Elon Musk is bullshit. You're not the media. You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter any more than me looking at your head and seeing that you have a brain and telling you have an awesome set of tools makes me a damn neurosurgeon, right? Like, what we do, what journalists do, what you did in Mississippi, what Al Jazeera does in the Middle East. You don't proclaim yourself to be a reporter. Like, that's nonsense. Like, being a reporter's hard, really hard. You have to care. You have to do the hard work. You have to get up every single day and say, I want to get to the closest approximation of the truth without any fear, without any favoritism. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. We just got to play this brief.
Come on, slow clap, everyone. First of all, I've got to.
So before we get into the sort of self-righteous, part 2 of this from the rest of the Morning Joe panel, it's mostly Joe. He's a real Mike hog.
Yeah.
Though, isn't the whole point of journalism that anyone can do it? Like, anyone can do it. Like, yes, anyone can be a reporter. That the whole one of the things that made that has historically made American journalism great is that there was not a lot of gatekeeping. That's the extra read about, you tell a story and you write the story. Like, you could do it. Journalists came from working class backgrounds. Now, they had to get hired by a paper, sure, but not every paper is the New York Times. Not every paper is the Washington Post. You could submit pieces to your local newspaper. Like, the whole point of it, what makes it a noble profession is that anybody can do it. Now, it's hard to do it well. I'm not saying anybody should be taken seriously as a journalist and that everybody has to be revered as a reporter. But when you see the optics of that, this guy getting up at the press club with the white tablecloth, I mean, this is what, Matt Taibbi has written a lot about, the sort of how the class composition of journalism has morphed into this very elitist sort of inner circle, and has really left the blue collar sort of nature of the work itself, which is, scrappy, argumentative guy, hits the ground, asks the tough questions, pesters people, bothers people, gets stories out of people, like the Matt Lee type. Like that's why he's so fun to watch, because he's this sort of relic of the past.
Right.
Now what passes for journalism is these jerk-offs who are so offended at the idea that basically anyone can get their message out there. There are people on Twitter who I don't like, whose opinions I don't like, whose work I don't enjoy. That Jack Posobiec guy, the big Trump guy.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy is good at what he does. Like, if you dig his shit, he's good at it. He interviews people, sometimes in studios, sometimes on the street. He'll go to Trump rallies and events and post stuff. I mean, that's journalism. That's reporting. And he's good at it, and he has a following because of it. He's got almost 3 million followers. Not my cup of tea, but, like, it's good that people have an opportunity to grow an organic following like that. It doesn't have to be gatekept in the way that he suggests it has to be. And that's what really is offensive to them, is this idea that now, because of social media, anyone can do it. Now, is there a dark side of that? Is there a downside to that? Yeah, it's that some people who aren't very good at it are going to, cultivate a following even though they do trash work. But that's generally not true. I mean, generally you have to trust the wisdom of crowds. You generally have to trust the masses. You have to trust the population, which is really at the core of what democracy is, I thought, is trust in the people, which they have no trust in the people. And so that's kind of what I think he gets at in that rant/meltdown there.
Yeah, well, this is true across society in media and culture. You look at why Hollywood is on fire. It is partly because out-of-touch elites wound up taking over the creative departments, whereas in the past, I'm not saying everybody came from the rough side of town, but Spielberg, Lucas, they were like from middle-class, normal homes, which gave them a sense of what people liked, of what people were interested in seeing. They were connected to the public in that way. Once you give it over to a bunch of Ivy League graduates, well, now they see their role as to impose their view on people. Same thing happened with reporting. When you had working class to middle class backgrounds in reporters, they saw their job as sharing information with people because they saw themselves as one of them.
Right.
Once you give it over to these elites, they see their job as, and they say it straight out. Mika said this. They think it's their job to tell people what to think. That's our job.
Right.
That's our job. That's how they think. That's how they think of journalism, because they see themselves as to the manner born, and we are going to bring the proper information to the peasants. Now, what he misses through all of this is that their own point of view is distorted by their class.
Right.
They are not presenting honest, objective, unbiased journalism. They are presenting a very classist take, particularly on economics and foreign policy. And their real exception is not disinformation or misinformation. It's a challenge to their narrative. That is their real issue. And when you look at some of the reporting that's been done, you want to talk about people that I don't necessarily like. Look, Matt Walsh. It took Matt Walsh, and this, he didn't have to dig into any archives. He just went and looked at what they had put out publicly. He is the one who revealed the doctors at the Children's Gender Clinic in Nashville bragging about how much money there is to be made in these surgeries. Would they ever in a million years have done that story in the corporate media? Well, why not? I mean, fine. You support those kinds of treatments. Fine. Isn't that news? Isn't that worth?
Right.
And it's not even your job to support or not support.
Right.
You're pretending that you have those standards, but you don't. You don't. That at the height of that debate, wasn't that news? But it took a Matt Walsh to reveal it. This is what they take exception to. They have lost their ability to gatekeep.
Right.
Now, a lot of people said, and I agree, if Harris had won, this liberal tendency towards that kind of authoritarianism would have gotten worse. We do see the counterpart on the other side, where Trump's new AG pick, Bondi, is talking about sending the FBI to question pro-Palestine protesters. Might that have happened under Harris? Perhaps. It's a little less likely. I mean, Trump's just telling you straight out what he's going to do, and he wants to arrest people for burning flags and that kind of thing. As you've often pointed out, the libs feel a need to put a good face on it. Right. They feel a need to pretend they care about civil liberties, which checks some of those things. They feel like they have to do it in a sneaky way, like the Twitter files, right?
Right.
They can come right out and tell you. They'll try to find their ways. But it really is a Scylla and Charybdis choice. Like, I don't want to give the impression, Trump is here, free speech is back. But when you look at the point of view in that clip, that is the point of view that tends to be amongst the libs. It is that it is for us to tell you what to think, not just what to know, what to think.
Right. And so now Scarborough adds to this. He adds to this, and he goes off on a rant of his own.
Extraordinary content. It needs to be said.
Yeah.
It continues to need to be said. When all of the garbage is flying around on social media, lying about reporters, lying about the hard work they do, lying about the hard work editors do, lying about everything up and down.
What he means by lying about this, lying about that, lying about this is challenging every narrative, right? That's what they are competing now against what's actually popular. Right. Which they didn't have to do before the age of social media because people had limited options. Well, I mean, you gotta either read the Post or the News or the Times. It's one of those three. If you're in New York City.
You notice none of them are talking about. You really want to get into what's wrong with the media. None of them are talking about Clinton's deregulation of the media space, which has allowed this concentration of 90% of the media among 6 corporations. That's not a problem. You'll never hear about that on any of these shows. I've never heard them talk about that. I have never once on one of these shows heard them talking about the concentration of news among 6 corporations.
Yeah, no, me neither.
About not only their alternative set of facts, but alternative set of facts about what people like you do. And I love how you connected reporters in Mississippi in the 1960s to reporters fighting for their life to get the story out in the Middle East today.
That was a long time
Jim,
ago,
it was very powerful.
Really good.
Very powerful. Even if even if we had to beep you more than
the story in the Middle East today. So he's referring to journalists in war zones. I'm assuming he's referring to Gaza. What impact has that made? And have not Joe and Mika done their part to undermine on the ground reporting in Gaza? Because they have certainly played a huge role in the smearing of pro-Palestine protesters who have the position they do, not just because of a certain conviction, but a lot of people who did not pay particularly close focus to this issue in the past have been radicalized by the on-the-ground reporting, which doesn't seem to have affected the hearts and minds at MSNBC all that much. Like I said, we're still waiting for that video of Rachel Maddow crying about dead children in Gaza.
We'll be
waiting
a long
tears
time
to shed about the migrants that Trump put in camps, but none about this genocide now. So it's kind of interesting that they would give him such credit for recognizing the work of war reporters in the Middle East, while at the same time parroting the exact line that we have a key ally here who we have to help commit this mass murder. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
We would if we ran a Dave Chappelle concert.
I like
still
it.
Good.
Jim's mild manner.
He preached it, though. Cadence. I mean, I might get him ordained.
Well, let me just say, why this is so important right now, more than ever, is because critics of the press, are feeling more empowered than ever to lie more than ever. I've had friends for years going, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, Joe, by the news. I don't read the news. I go, oh, where do you get your news then? Epic Times. I go,
Oh, God.
You get your news from a website run by Chinese, by conspiracy theorists in a Chinese religious cult. That's
okay. So Epoch Times. There's definitely a lot of bullshit in there. I don't think it's any worse than what you would see in the Post. It probably has about the same truth to bullshit ratio as Morning Joe does.
Yeah,
probably a little better. Probably a little better. So this is the part of this story they don't get. They cannot hold themselves accountable. Very much like the Israeli state. They cannot investigate themselves. It doesn't matter how many times they fail. It doesn't matter how much the numbers on public approval of the media plummet. A year after year, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. They're losing their own lib audience. Because after a while, people get tired of losing. They get tired of getting gassed up about how Hillary's going to win, about how Harris is going to win. Even the libs have a limit. Even they have a limit on how many times you can gas them up and then come up with excuses and blame the racists. In the end, people don't like to be isolated and powerless. And it seems like for a lot of the liberals, the rank and file people who watch this shit, they don't want to be on the wrong side of the cultural drift. I think that's a big part of why they've tuned out. The ratings are plummeting. Yep. And I don't think it's just a normal your side lost. I don't think they're gaining that back. I would be very, very surprised. And I think the smarter of them, or the less ideologically committed of them, are getting ready to reset. They're getting ready to reset. They don't want to be the person who gets laughed at. They don't want to be the odd person out. These are people who are very concerned about social status, people who watch shows like this. And as they see the culture drifting into this kind of anti-woke manosphere thing, you watch. A lot of those people are just going to adopt those manners and those attitudes. It won't happen overnight, but it will, just like it did in the Reagan years. And then all of a sudden, this is why I was saying this woke thing, they're going to be laughing at it in a few years, just the same way the hippie was a joke in every cultural product by the mid 80s. If you showed a hippie, it was a joke. It was a figure of fun. It was, oh, look at this idiot. That's what woke people are going to be. They're going to have somebody talking about DEI on a sitcom within the next 4 years, and everyone's going to go, ha, 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 right? Nobody wants to be that person. So they're all going to shift away from it. And shows like this that have built their entire brand around the assumption of these ideas as correct and right and virtuous, they don't know whether shit or wine their wristwatch now. They have no idea where to go. That's why they did that Mar-a-Lago thing, right? They're trying to retool, but it's too late. What audience you have left is there for that kind of shit. You can't just switch gears on them. They don't know what to do, and I don't think they're going to be able to work it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the case of Joe and Mika, I think it's more a case of just having built an entire brand around the strategy of otherizing Donald Trump. I mean, Joe Scarborough is he's a conservative,
not just that.
Right? No, of course. So I'm saying I think that plays more into it in their particular case than like some of the more liberal anchors on the network, like Maddow and Joy Reid and Hayes and things like that. But the whole project of MSNBC was to otherize Trump, to disqualify Trump. That has been a 10-year project that has failed absolutely miserably, which is really why I think they were talking in such existential terms about this election. I don't think Trump was an existential threat to America. I think he was an existential threat to MSNBC. If we don't beat him, if we go all in on this strategy, which we have to now, because don't forget, audience capture exists in the mainstream media too, right? We have attracted this basically Lincoln Project Republican audience. It's really not even a liberal network. I mean, Maddow's a liberal, Hayes is a liberal, Reid is a liberal, but most of the daytime coverage is fucking Republicans. It's Nicole Wallace. It's Joe Scarborough, right? Like, if you go all in on that,
I mean, that's pretty much what Chris Matthews was. Like, it's
and that's
not
basically,
new.
Yeah.
Fucking get teary-eyed one more time about Reagan having drinks with Tip O'Neill.
Yeah,
at the end
Tip
of the
O'Neill
day.
and Ronald Reagan. Yeah, exactly.
we need to hear this fucking story again.
Yeah, right, exactly. So when you go all in on that and it fails, yeah, you are stuck looking pretty bad. And I think this session was really the cope session after the Mar-a-Lago meeting. They went on the air after that and talked about how, you know, their friends we're getting phone calls saying it was a great idea, and people on Twitter are being mean to us. That was a level of cope, but this is really this really distills what the fear of Trump was about to them. It was a fear of surrendering control of the narrative, and not just surrendering control of the narrative, since that had been kind of slipping for a while, but it shattered whatever illusion of superiority they had. It really
what they had
really
left.
It shattered
of
whatever
their ability to dictate terms to the peasants.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. It shone a bright light on the fact that they actually don't pull more weight than jerk offs on social media.
The celebrities, Taylor Swift, none of it mattered.
Right.
They were saying Twitter's not real life. Well, your whole media, celebrity, Hollywood, Washington clusterfuck apparently is not real life.
Exactly.
It turns out that this was the moment where those scales shifted. And it became, no, actually, that is real life. And that's what I'm saying. They're panicking. They have no idea what they're going to do in a world where they don't have power and influence. MSNBC is not long for this world, because I don't think they're going to recover their viewership. So at that, they're spinning it off. They're talking about changing the name. Yeah, I think it could wind up being reduced to its parts, and a lot of these people could get fired. I think a good measure for whether you are capable of assessing politics in America, do you watch Joe and Mika, and do you feel like they're your friends, or do you feel like they should be put on trial for their crimes against the people? If it's the former, you should shut the fuck up about politics. Like, if those two people don't make your head explode, you have no idea what you're talking about politically.
Please clap.